Okay, so I realize that these video motions are very difficult to film without being bookended.
Okay,
So
yes, I
a
agree.
beginning video and a wrap-up video so
Agreed.
that only the motion is within the certain video so that people who are working in the courts do not need to watch
Spend their
personal
time, yes,
content for
agreed.
things where I'm like, look, I just want to explain myself, all right?
Yeah.
First and foremost, this is a piece of paper. I am a human being. This is my assistant. Those are the three props that are going to be used for the majority of what's going on. So one of the things that I really want to explain to everyone is that this is not me soapboxing on YouTube, but rather me making a final imprint of my legal position and stating it publicly so that if for some ungodly reason human beings want to go against the US Constitution, invent time machines, and completely humiliate themselves in the court of public opinion based on what they have chosen as their line of work and the crimes they have committed with the powers that are vested within their due rights. then
That's
it
a
is-
long sentence.
So let me simplify
Yeah.
it, okay? I have to make these videos so that I keep my sanity and do not continue to file paperwork and motions
Much better.
that are
Much
being
better.
shredded and deleted because the negligence in what has happened to me and my businesses falls squarely on the shoulders of two entities. One, the perpetrators of the crime, and two, the courts that have allowed it and systemically ignored the legal snafu that my personal and professional life has turned into. We're not even talking about law enforcement at this point because obviously I can't take matters into my own hands. So this is the closest I can get to it, which is a legal process that is public. It is undoubtable, meaning that it's here. You could claim that I lied, but you would have to really continue to use the courts as an instrument of destruction, which really is the thesis behind all of this,
Correct.
is that in order to stop the destruction, we must eliminate the weapon, not have the people change that will fire the same weapons when given the circumstances.
Correct.
Okay?
So
Now,
these videos
yes.
will come in conjunction with actual motions filed to the court as
Right,
well.
right. So
Just to be clear.
Yeah, and the reason why it's so important is that when time passes, human beings need to say, hey, this guy was on YouTube screaming like, hey, we need checks and balances. We need human beings to really march, no pun intended, into the courthouse and stop the fuckery that's been going on for the
Right.
30, 40 years after human beings really started to put their faith and trust in the courts, and that really stems from Hollywood. Hollywood, Atticus Finch, and Finch, I don't know which one it is, but and other characterizations of attorneys have created this ideological
Yeah.
sense of comfort behind the words, my son is a lawyer.
Totally.
And if it wasn't for
Totally.
Hollywood,
Yeah, if
we
it wasn't-
never would have this type of perspective.
Yeah.
This is why lawyers in Canada and Europe get paid 1/5 the price, because they're not obsessed with Hollywood. They live their lives. They do not live the lives of other people.
Got it.
Do you understand?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
All right, now-
I don't know much about Canadian.
Canadians are awesome. Now, back to the drawing board. The irony behind all this is that the content is actually real. So for example, somebody finally posed me an applied mathematical question yesterday.
Okay.
But not me. They posed it to you. And I did not give you the answer, but I was able to solve it in a quarter of a second. And I am not able to really do this for other people because I choose not to, because
Okay.
the majority of people that will ask me questions do it in mockery. So for
true.
example, my family my whole life has always been like, oh yeah, mathematician, why don't you go solve this one? You know, that type of
They
thing. And my in-laws, I mean, people are really mean to me.
Yeah.
They look to find out things in order to disprove my facts rather than supporting and loving me. I've never had that luxury. And a lot of that is because people subconsciously know that what I'm saying is the truth, so I can handle it. So if you're gonna be stating facts like this, you better have the ass to back it.
So you answered my.
You have to ask the question.
I don't know
and
what I was
When you were at
asked.
the bank, what did she ask you about childcare?
Oh, she wanted you to solve the issue that working mothers who try their hardest cannot get assistance from the government to cover childcare costs, where other people who don't work and expect handouts from the government, get them.
Okay, so first and foremost, that's a problem that has to be corrected before it's solved. The reason for this is because the way the problem is posed is a juxtaposition, and it really creates a paradox in the sense that the human being that is asking the question has to accept that their problem is not with the government and the government's position, but rather their inability to live their life given the circumstances of the choice of life that they made a choice. Which means that by being a career woman, that is what the question is. How do you balance your work life and home life if all of your expenses are going towards maintaining your work life? That's the real question. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the real answer stems from understanding the question in that the person who made the choice must also accept that they made the choice in a system that is designed for women to be challenged far greater than men. Why? Because the system was created by men. Historically speaking, the human beings that created the entire work environment, and you should watch a show called Mad Men, it'll give you an insight, and the actual answer is very, very simple.
Okay.
And that is, you are not supposed to not struggle. What is happening to the woman is exactly what is supposed to happen in a society that empowers women far beyond almost any society in the world. What that means is that in America, we have more services and equalization factors than almost any other country. Meaning that if you're a female that wants to get to a position to be a branch manager or a bank teller, you will be supported to that journey far greater than any man that chooses to do it. Do you understand what I'm saying?
No.
The difficulties of the actual system make it so that the woman who's speaking to you is far more qualified to be there than a man that would be there, because she already has to balance raising a child by herself before she even gets to work. It's a system that solves itself, which is why the bank is a very successful bank, because they hire the best people that are able to actually get it done. And a problem that already has been solved through social services that exist for human beings that simply are not as intelligent and not nearly as capable as the person that asked the question. They're really designed to help women like that, and they're there. But we as a society cannot empower women like, it was Jay, did her name start with a J? Mm-hmm. Okay. We cannot empower women like that without expecting the ramifications of how hard it is to raise a child alone. It's nothing more than a paradox. It is not an actual problem. It's a problem that's very easily solved. She could quit her job, go on welfare, and no longer have the respectability once she looks in the mirror. Her pride stems from the question. By solving it, we will take away her motivation and drive. Therefore, the answer is within the question. Do you understand?
No, because how can the answer be within the question if...
Because sometimes a question is not a question, it's a statement of fact posed as a question. That's how you solve it, meaning that every single human being that has a child has their own case. Therefore, the entire concept of the federal government interfering in a human being's life is laughable. And the reason for that is because social services exist to support the people that are less fortunate. And less fortunate doesn't mean financially. Intelligence and work ethic are far greater factors of success than intelligence. And I know for a fact that Jay is very intelligent and beyond hardworking. Far more hardworking than a human being that is not capable of creating life. And that's why I support women. The answer is that, unfortunately, this human being has to swim their way out of this well of thinking. It is her mentality that is the problem with this paradox. It is her inability to understand how valuable and brilliant what she has done is.
That's true.
Not the adverse, which is complaining and looking for the problems as a global means of a solution.
That makes sense.
That's what I'm trying to tell you, is that the answer to the problem is within the problem. The fact that a human being can't look in the mirror and be proud to have achieved what that woman has achieved is the problem.
Yeah,
Do you
I
understand?
do understand.
That-
So-
Well, you know,
That is the problem.
that is the problem. And that's why I solved it in 1/4 of a second, is because I knew who asked you the question and I knew what she was trying to say. Because a human being who actually wants a real applied mathematical answer has to take into consideration historical relationships between the parties that are communicating. They have to take into consideration context.
Right.
They have to take into consideration adverse ratio of future development relationship, bingo bango. And what that means is, one day you could be her boss. She wants you to know what her priorities are. This is business, sweetheart. Welcome to the real world.
Yeah.
And I congratulate her and the rest of the people that are at the best bank branch in the
Best.
state of New Jersey
I agree.
for actually earning their merits and not having it handed to them by human beings who rely on the kindness of the US government.
Yeah,
See, I don't
They are,
rely on the
they
kindness of the
are.
US government. This is where it leads you when you're a federal agent who has sacrificed his entire personal life just to deliver some of the greatest free content in human history. And that's why I had to bookend it, because one
Yeah.
might think that I did not solve the problem, but I actually did, because the problem was in her state of mind.
Yeah.
And it is a constant struggle that me and Miss J have, where I constantly have to remind her that she's a effing rock star. Her hair is awesome, and she deserves far more credit than whatever she sees in the mirror. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that she's raising a teenage girl. So the problem really stems from her looking at her past experiences and not in the present tense. And that's why it's not a real applied mathematical equation, because in real applied mathematics, the lady behind the counter is the one that's supposed to be asking the question. Does that make sense?
very good. Yes.
All right, cool. My name is Dan Reeses. Sorry, I'm the best in the world.